good afternoon, good evening, greetings, salutations, whenever you're watching this, time of day, time of the week, time of month, time of year. Hopefully this finds you in a good place, and if you are ready to up your game and you're looking at upgrading your bike, whether it be a road bike to tri bike, road bike to road bike, tri bike to tri bike, or Schwinn from Walmart to a decent road bike of some sort. Hopefully these little tips we're about to go over will help you out. If you've got any questions, like I say in all my videos, put them in the comments. And I've got a monitor up here with the live comments here. We're doing this Facebook Live, and later I'll record it and I'll put it on YouTube. But any comments during the live or comments after the video has been posted in YouTube or Facebook, put them on there. And I always like to see them and get back to you. And if you've got any other information you think is pertinent, or if you have any other questions, put them on there. I'd like to get back to you. So we're going to jump into it real quick. Keep us on task. What we're talking about is it time to get a new bike. It's a favorite day, usually for all triathletes, to go out there and find that bike that's just awesome. That's an upgrade of your existing bike, and you think it'll get you to the finish line, and it's the best thing ever. But there's a few things you need to think about to really think long and hard. Is a new bike something you really need? If you have the means, why not? You know, if money just grows on trees out in your front yard or the backyard, hey, man, more power to you. Go out there and get it and load up and no worries, and go out there and get the best you can. So a lot of us are in that boat, so we'll keep going with the points here. Number two, if you're thinking about a new bike and you're like, oh, I don't know, my other bike is okay or whatever. If you're in a budget constraint, which most of us are because it's an expensive sport, you know, take care of what you got. Yearly tune-ups and miscellaneous maintenance exceeds hundreds of dollars. So if you are keeping up with your bike and you're trying to keep it up, every year, you know, you do a tune-up for $150 and you find out the chain needs to be replaced. And then you find out the cassette needs to be replaced, and you find out the chain on the front needs to be replaced. The bottom bracket's loose and something needs to be replaced. Your group set's getting old and out of shape. Your derailleur needs to be replaced. If you're finding things are adding up every year, it's like $300-400 every year to keep upgrading or keep maintaining your bike, and you keep finding problems that aren't exactly upgrades on the bike, then it might be time to consider. It's like, you know, it's like a car or anything else. If it's the maintenance is exceeding what possibly would be to save your money and buy a new bike or vehicle or whatever, then maybe it's time to start looking at doing that upgrade. Number three, if it's harder to get parts for your bike. So if you're running around, and especially these days, post-pandemic, supply chain issues, all this kind of fun stuff, sometimes you could be waiting 2 to 3 weeks. And if you're waiting that long and you've taken your bike in at the beginning of the season and you have to wait a long period of time, and it's I had a chain ring that some of the teeth had ground off just basically, and the chain just keeps falling off. The bike wasn't rideable, and there's no way to kind of limp it through to the point where it was rideable. So I just had to leave my bike there, and I rode my road bike. Luckily, I had a second bike to ride while I had to leave my bike at the shop to reserve the spot, but it took about 2 weeks to get the parts in that would actually fit my bike. They had to source them and get them in. So if it's getting to the point where it's getting harder and harder to find parts, and you have to wait longer and longer, or you can't find the parts to fix your bike anymore, it might be time to consider an upgrade. So if it's hard to get parts, consider that. If your frame has gone bad or it's questionable, now this, especially carbon fiber, if you got a crack on the frame, it's time. Like, if you can't get it fixed, I know here in Kansas City there's a guy, but he's backed up for like over a year. It's crazy. So if you got a bike and you've got a frame situation on a carbon fiber frame and you can't get it fixed, the last thing you want to be doing is going down a hill 35-40 miles per hour and have your frame crack in half. So if it's a safety issue, carbon fiber frame is cracked and maybe non-repairable, then that's a certain situation where you probably need to upgrade your bike to something at least comparable. But if the frame's busted, you need a new frame. And the same goes with aluminum bike. If the frame is bent, if you've gone through and bent it at all, you've created a stress point, a fatigue point. Good old fracture mechanics in graduate school. You fatigue that spot even more, you can cause a crack, and your frame could fail. So you want to be careful with that. If you want to lie to ride, possibly, if you got a steel frame from your Schwinn from Walmart or something like that, it could 25-30 pounds. But you go out and you get a newer frame, it could be 15, 16 pounds. So it could be a considerable savings without a huge, dramatic increase in price. So consider that if you want a lighter ride, but also consider, it's also kind of cheaper to lose if you've got the body fat and body weight to lose, to focus on losing that and not necessarily have to find it out of your bike or equipment. So keep that in mind. Number 6 there, rolling with a mountain bike at 70.3 and you want to go faster. So if you're out there and you've done your first races and you're rolling on a mountain bike or, possibly a gravel bike or something like that, there is significant upgrade in speed and efficiency to go to like even a road bike or just a tri bike. So maybe you got to that point where you've done enough races and you want to do this over time, and it's time to upgrade past that mountain bike to get some efficiency that you can possibly get out of a different style bike other than a hybrid bike, a cruiser bike, or a mountain bike or something like that. But like I said, you also want to focus on the ride you got. If you're just looking at it, you're like, oh, the new bikes just look cool. Well, take care of your current ride, because in reality, if you take care of it, you get them regular maintenance, your bike should last 6, 7 years, or even longer. So take care of the components, take care of the frame, do inspections of the frame, get your tune-ups, take care of all the gears, make sure they're all, shifting properly. And if you're doing your yearly maintenance, they'll clean it, they'll grease it, and it should be good to go. Now, if you're riding it in rain and stuff like that, make sure you wash it off. Just take care of it. And they're most bikes nowadays, even the kind of the lower end, I say lower end, but they're still expensive. They're quality bikes and quality pieces of equipment, and taken care of properly, they should last a long time. So even if your bike is like 6 years old, but if you kept it in proper maintenance and it's not costing an arm and leg to keep it running, maybe you don't need that upgrade. So there's want and then there's need. So take care of what you got. Consider that a 5-year-old or Ultegra group set may not be as better than your 2-year-old 105. So if you got an older bike with an Ultegra group set, which is the higher end, and you got a newer bike, but it's got a 105 group set, you got to consider that a higher end group set could last an extremely longer period of time because it's designed to be a little bit lighter, a little bit more efficient, a little bit more durable. So just consider that, frame to frame, it may be the same frame, but component to component, it may be a little different. So just make sure you're taking everything into consideration, not just does it look cool. It's like the components, the age, the group sets. Have this group sets been replaced on your older, the one you're looking at? Is the group set, this is the original group set? Is it the same year? All this kind of stuff goes into that. I've done tons of videos on, what to look for when you're getting either a used bike or new bike or something like that. But just make sure that you're comparing apples to apples, not apples to oranges, and just make sure that it's not, you think it's an upgrade, but when you get it, it's actually not an upgrade, it's a downgrade. So beware of that. Number 9 there, time to up the ante to tri-bike status. So have you been doing this for a long time now, and it's just like, you're doing a 70.2, you're doing a full Ironman, and you want to do maybe one a year or something like that, and that's the lifestyle you want to lead. It behooves you to have, especially longer distances, even regardless of hillier bike courses, it's more efficient and more aerodynamic to have a triathlon or a TT bike. So if you're going to do this for long periods of time and the aerodynamics of it and your body composition fits on that bike, you don't have any, some people go to a tri bike and they have severe back problems and they have to go back to a road bike. So consider that, test them out and just see if you're going to be comfortable over time. But maybe you got to that point. It's just like, I've done it on my road bikes. I think I'm dedicated enough, and I know I can find a bike frame that will work. So maybe it's just time to upgrade. So maybe that's a good reason. It's like time to start looking. And last but not least, and I kind of mentioned this, you're riding that Walmart special from 2012. There's nothing wrong with the Walmart special from 2012. If that's all your budget allows, that's all your budget allows. But if you've been riding it 5 or 6 years and you're kind of in the boat of the previous comments where you're replacing group sets, derailleurs every year, cassettes, bottom brackets, everything just going out. Those bikes aren't really made for longevity per se and durability. So if you've been doing this for years and years and years, and even if you're doing Olympics and sprints and stuff and you're putting on miles on those bikes, 50, 60, 70 miles a week or something like that, it adds up, especially if you're riding a bike that's meant for more mainstream, a commuter bike in college. I had my mountain bike as a commuter bike. Once I started getting into mountain bike riding, that thing fell apart pretty quick because it just was not meant for that kind of durability and meant for trail usage. It was just kind of a light usage bike, even though it was a mountain bike. So just keep that in mind. If you've done the races for a while and you figured that this is something you're going to keep doing over time, maybe it is worth the investment to get at something that's a little bit more durable, a little bit more meant for what you're doing out there. So that was my tips I was just going to run through today. So a lot of people have asked me, it's like, oh, I'm considering a new bike. Should I get it or should I not? There's a lot of things that go into it other than the fact of this looks nicer than the bike I have now. You got to take into consider your budget, your stakeholders. If you got a spouse, significant other, share finances with somebody, they may not appreciate you going out and dropping some coin on a new bike when you got one that may meet one of these points below that says your bike's fine, just take care of it. There's no problem with it. But if you got a special situation where I had a problem with I took out some screws out of the frame and they were rusted in place because of sweat, and it busted out the little rim nut that the box attached to, and it cored out a little hole on top of my frame. So it's not exactly what I would call safe, and I couldn't get into the shop. The guy that fixed it, it was going to take over a year. So it was just a situation where I'd replaced the cassette, the rear cassette, the front cassette. I think the derailleur had been replaced. The cable's been replaced a couple times. The chain been replaced. That bike, I'd spent 5-6 years on it, and I'd done up to 8 Ironman races on it. And so many have Ironman races I can't count, Olympic sprints, and just riding in general and training. I got my time and my money's worth out of the bike. So it was time to upgrade. But make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. But if money is no problem, income's no problem, then hey, by all means, don't skip this whole video and just go out and get the bike you want. But budget constraint and you're just kind of like, I don't know, shouldn't I? Should I treat myself? It's not about treating yourself necessarily. It's about, are you taking care of what you got? Is it to the point where it's kind of the end of its life cycle, and is it appropriate to look at a different, either a new road bike or a newer road bike, newer tri bike or something like that. So hopefully this kind of helps you out if you're kind of on the fence of, do I get a new bike or not? And again, I didn't see any comments during this video live, so if you got any comments later, put them in the comments. I will come back and I'll check them later. I get notifications. Give it a like on Facebook if this helped you out. Give it a like on YouTube if this helped you out. Give me a subscribe on YouTube. Hit the notifications to see future videos on just tips in general, and then tips on race courses and anything else that I put out there about triathlons. So with that, I hope this helped you out, and we'll talk to you next time. Happy training out there, and we'll see you at the finish line.